What's up, squad? It's Brandon from the Bantu Sun. Thank you so much for joining me today. So, I was just reading an article talking about the Pakistanis are stepping up military attacks on Afghanistan in response to certain Taliban terrorist acts within the country. So I wanted to come back because this is really interesting watching the evolution. As we said, we was going to monitor it, and here we are watching the evolution of Taliban and what they are trying to become. So I did a pretty decent video, if I must say. I actually rewatched it, called "How They Did It," and I go into the background on how I believe the Taliban was able, the ragtag Taliban, for 20 years were able to withstand an onslaught from the world's most powerful country, the United States, and able to defeat them. And one of the primary reasons that I believe this was done was because the Taliban leadership were able to hide out and receive support in Pakistan. Taliban, going back to its early days with the Mujahideen, the forerunner of a coalition of Islamic groups, some of which would break out to join the Taliban amongst other groups. But the Mujahideen was supported by Pakistan. It was supported by the United States. Now, of course, the United States supported this Islamic fundamentalist group or this Islamic group as a way to weaken the Soviet Union. The reason I believe that Pakistan were behind the Mujahideen, and the reason why I believe that they supported the Pakistan up to this day, was because they were the in the background of Pakistan politics is the fact that they have 40 to 50 million Pashtuns, Indo-European people, separated by the Duran line from their Pashtun brothers and sisters within Afghanistan, which make up the majority population within Afghanistan. And I made this video how they did it, and I go into detail on the various ethnic groups of the region, how they're laid out, and why I believe the Pakistanis would rather have an Islamicist or Islamic focused Pashtun group as opposed to a Pashtun nationalist group next door to them. And that is because it is a threat to their very integrity, because the Pashtun people are divided. And if you look at some of the articles, a lot of what they are saying is these Taliban group, some of these, in order to curry favor, now that they didn't kick the United States out, but in order to curry favor, and this is the sleeper elephant or the elephant in the room, in order to curry favor or try to gain mass appeal, is they are naturally appealing to the strong underlying political, we could say political vibe within a country of a desire for a Pashtun state, a Pashtustan within the region. And the Taliban are going off script in order, and this reminds me so much of, how religion was spread, how they would incorporate various parts of the local religions into you see this with Catholicism in the Caribbean. It would take the local or the group that's being acquired, take some of their religious undertones and bring it into their religion to gain mass appeal. You can look at it with Christianity as well, with paganism. Uh, you can see some facets of Christianity where you have forms of paganism that were brought in some European countries to make it more palatable to the people. And it's the same thing going on here. You have this Taliban, this Islamist group, but they know that that's only going to take them so far politically within the country. So they're appealing in Afghanistan for legitimacy, also to deter competitors, to try to outflank them on this Pashtun nationalism shtick, if you must say. Now, one thing I don't think that is discussed enough, but what should be, is why the Taliban were able to outlast America. And of course, I go into the details on the technicalities, but I also want to talk to the palatability of it all, the taste of it all. And that is, I believe, the Taliban was the only group, all of the actors that were involved, the proxy actors outside of the actual war itself, were able to come to terms with. I believe that the other groups were going to be too small. You couldn't have Tajiks or Hazaris running the country. We saw that when we had the prior administration. You saw the corruption level. They were talking about the amount of money that it took to keep Afghanistan just subdued because of the corruption required to keep like President Karzai in power. And the Afghanistan people, they're going to want Pashtun leadership. They're going to want people that reflect that within their country. In the Durand line, the line put there by colonialism to divide the separate Afghanistan and Pakistan, has not ever really been accepted by any Afghani administration. So the Afghanis have never really said, you're separating our people, it's okay. And you got to remember, there's 2 to 3 times more, although they're the minority in Pakistan, there's 2 to 3 times more Pashtuns in Pakistan than there is in Afghanistan. So the heartland or the core acumen of the group lies within Pakistan. So these people are separated. There is a desire within Afghanistan for this unification. And Afghanistan wasn't going to accept other leadership outside of Pashtun leadership. And the Pakistan did not want to accept Pashtun leadership. So they leaned on the Taliban, hoping that the ties that they have over Islam will be stronger, and therefore the Taliban will be more loyal to Pakistan through Islam than their ties that the Taliban will have to a Pashtun nationalistic ideology. And what we're starting to see now, and I think that was the deal. They said, okay, who can we agree on? America, Pakistan, maybe Qatar, and all the various actors to say, who can we agree on? And they say, we got to give it to the Taliban. They didn't want to give it to the Taliban, but they had to give it to the Taliban. America didn't want to concede it, but hey, America, as you can see, as soon as America left, America needed those resources for they can focus on the upcoming Russia-Ukraine war. And they didn't want to be bogged down in Afghanistan, so America had to get out. They left so fast, right? You remember seeing the video, the footage of the plane taking off, people clamoring to try to escape on a runway. You saw the billions of dollars of weapons which were left. They say by mistake. I don't think those weapons were left by mistake. I actually think those weapons was there to secure integrity for the regime, that they would have these weapons to fend off any nationalists. I think that as things evolve and Afghanistan seeks to identify its way, and it's you see that this Taliban, this Islamic face, maybe it woke something up. Maybe this U.S. Afghanistan woke something up in the country, or maybe it was always there. But this Pashtun nationalism keep coming back to the surface, almost like a cheap paint job, and the original color keeps coming up, and the paint keeps chipping away. No matter how thick the veneer or the layer of Islamicism is painted on Afghanistan, there's always this undertone of Pashtun nationalism that seems to come to the top. And Pakistan is determined to try to keep that desire suppressed. And even so much is going in their own country. Do we remember Prime Minister Imran Khan, who's in jail right now, right? Prime Minister Imran Khan was in jail every 2 weeks. I mean, I'm being facetious, of course, but he was constantly, he's a Pashtun. He was constantly under trial. His protesters constantly in the street. And the reason why I think he was such an issue was because he had greater ideas to remake Pakistan. And that's something that the Indo-Aryan leaders of the country, the Punjabis and other groups of the more southern belt of the country, just couldn't deal with. Like, even right now, who's the prime minister? The prime minister is Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif of Pakistan. It's another Indo-Aryan. The Pashtuns being Indo-European, of course, Indo-Aryans being more related to South Asia, the subcontinent. So this is why they're on the southern belt of the country. The northern belt, of course, is these Pashtuns. So you see this, and of course you always got the Balaki separatists to the western portion of the country. They're always out there in Pakistan, but it's really interesting to see um, how Pakistan is going to try to maintain this issue. Because one of the things that I talk about, right, is the West's desire to get into Central Asia, because in Central Asia they can flank Pakistan, India, China, Russia, and in Iran, of course. And the way I think they're going to try to do that is through Turkey, go to the Caucasus, Azerbaijan, Caucasus, bam. We'll see. Like, and the only people on the other side of that Caspian Sea, if you wanted to supply that, is going to be Turkmenistan and Kazakhstan. Um, but Turkmenistan, although it's a hermit kingdom, no, very few people know about Turkmenistan. It's a natural gas hub, but Turkmenistan borders Afghanistan. So it'd be interesting to see if any Western outreach is done with Turkmenistan. But you think about Afghanistan, and it'd be really interesting to see if there's going to be a rapprochement, dare I say, between the United States and Afghanistan, United States and Taliban. Give it a couple years to cool down. Everybody's a little sensitive about this, the recent loss right now, and America can't be seen to go right back into the Taliban and try to build relations. But the relationship worked once before, and I think that relationship worked once before is because strategically, maybe not ideology, but strategically, the United States and the Taliban, or the United States and Afghanistan's fundamental interests are aligned. The independent Afghanistan and United States fundamental interests are aligned. Afghanistan probably don't want a super strong Pakistan, China, or Russia in the region. America doesn't want a super strong Pakistan, China, Russia in the region. So we'll continue to see, but the political instability for the amount of power that Pakistan is, 200 million people and growing, nuclear power and growing, for the amount of power that Pakistan has, it's one of the more powerful countries in the world. What it can really do, its political instability in relation to that power is frightening, right? They have very strong technology, they're very advanced, thanks to the Chinese. Some would say that they're a nuclear power, but they have the political instability of a developing country. So they really, and you can see that they assassinate leaders, they jail leaders. Like, these are people, the military is in charge, the intelligence services is in charge of that country, and they're trying to maintain some type of peace with these strong nationalist breakaway sentiments amongst various factions within the country. So it's going to be really interesting to see how these things lay out. So I will continue to monitor, but I really thought you thought the Taliban, I thought it could be said, many people thought the Taliban was going to go back, settle, and close the country down again. But maybe, who knows, maybe, and I don't know if they're being urged to do this, but maybe what came out of that U.S.-Afghanistan war, maybe a lingering effect, will be a desire for a stronger, more robust Afghanistan global ideology. And that you kind of woke the bear up with this. And now, with America gone, the Afghani people feeling strong and proud, do they cool the jets? You have a country where a generation, it's pretty much a generation of soldiers, they know nothing, they know not peace, they know nothing but fighting. So can they transition to a more peaceful country, or do they just keep going? Not to draw this false analogy, but keep going, such as it reminds me of a rising Third Reich. All they developed, but so much of their genetics was based on acquisition and conquest. Like, is there a way that they can transition to peace, put the guns down, and focus on governing? Or is this going to transition into a more Pashtun imperialist or more broad Pashtun nationalist ideology? So I'd love to hear your thoughts below. Comment if you have any insight. Would love to hear it. Like, share, subscribe if you enjoy the content. I'll make sure I post that video that I was referencing that I did earlier in the comments. Until next time, take care. Bantu up.